The Cincinnati Bengals checked a box, and they did it earlier than I thought they would. Dalton Risner back for 2026.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day in the number one sports podcast network in the land. He's James Rapien, I'm Jake Liscow. We are your hosts of Locked On Bengals, bringing you coverage of your favorite team every day, going all the way back to 2016, your best one-stop shop for all things Bengals, from news and analysis. And while our schedules got in the way of instantly reacting to Dalton Risner's return to the Cincinnati Bengals, we now have a whole lot more information than we would have had we recorded right away. So we'll get to talk about the reported terms of Dalton Risner's contract, his love for Cincinnati, the city, the organization, the fans that came out during his press conference, and of course, what it means for this team on the field from a football perspective going forward. It's the Dalton Risner re-signs for 1 year with the Bengals episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Welcome back to all the everydayers and all of you who make Locked On Bengals your first listen. Those of you that are part of the Locked On Bengals Insider Club, which you can join at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBengals, you might have heard us tell you in the last couple of days that things were trending in the right direction for Dalton Risner, and it was trending a little bit faster than I even thought, James Rapien, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode, brought to the people by FanDuel. You got a college basketball parlay profit boost going on right now. You can check out at FanDuel.com to get started. And James, this snuck up on us a little bit, huh? I mean, I thought maybe next weekend, but instead we get a Monday morning, very early morning for me, bit of news from the Bengals.
Yeah, huge. It's huge news. Surprised me. You're right. I thought I was pretty much on this and knew it was trending in the right direction, and you did too. And certainly our Locked On Bengals insiders at joinsubtext.com /Locked On. Did I nail it? I think I nailed it.
/Locked On Bengals. Yep.
Locked On Bengals. Dang. This is Locked On Bengals, not just Locked On. So that makes sense. Joinsubtext.com /Locked On Bengals. That being said, it's surprising for a few reasons. One, a Monday morning that I woke up at 4:45 in the morning, Jake. I woke up early. I attacked the day. And I didn't think
it was getting from you at like 1:30 my time.
Yes. That 1:30 your time. Proof. There you go. I forgot I texted you when I woke up. I didn't think that thing was getting done today. I thought at sometime this week it was probably going to get done. I thought it was more likely than not that he wouldn't get to free agency. But to get it done today, before most people had their morning coffee, I mean, this was done at like 8:30, 8:40 is when he had signed it or was going to sign it. And that's when, shout out Whitney Marie Risner, a.k.a. Whitney Schefter, breaking out the phone at Paycor Stadium, breaking the news. That's how I was able to fire the story, is because she was breaking the news on her own. And I love it. Look, I think we're going to dive into the football side of it. That's great, but it is a major surprise, the timing of it. And the other thing that was surprising was that it was a 1-year deal. In said story that I fired, I had 2-year deal. I would have bet probably hundreds of dollars that it was a 2-year deal with it getting done today on a Monday. And yet, I had to go back and edit that story and make it a 1-year deal because I got it all ready to go and saw her and I was like, oh, it's got to be a 2-year deal without the terms. Like the Bengals hadn't announced it yet or anything like that. I was like, it's probably a 2-year deal and forgot I put that in there. And then when it was a 1-year deal, obviously I had to edit it. So yeah, I was quite surprised.
Yeah, 1 year up to $5 million, which means the cap hit is probably not $5 million. We'll have to see what the base value is. We'll have to see what the incentives are. The Bengals like to do per game roster bonuses, and those are prorated as a salary cap hit based on what the player did the previous year. So the cap hit could be anywhere from, I would guess, $3.5 million to $4.5 million, depending on what those incentives are. And we'll just have to see what the terms of the contract are. But the per year number makes sense to me. Say it's like $4 million with incentives to get to 5, or 4.2 with incentives to get to 5, something like that. Like that number per year does make sense. But you're right. It's surprising for both the player and honestly for the team in some ways to me that they opted for a 1-year deal here. It's especially surprising for the player, right? Dalton Risner really wanted to be back in Cincinnati, though. That's a huge part of this. I think that's what perhaps made him amenable to whatever it was the Bengals were offering, if it was in the ballpark. And it sounds like, according to him, that, the Bengals made concessions, he made concessions. They found that happy medium, that common ground to get it done. But for Risner, who since his rookie deal has been bouncing around the league, was talking about how he would walk down after his workout to a spot where his neighbors took their dogs to relieve themselves in the morning and try to dodge the landmines in that little patch of grass where he would do his outdoor workouts. And now he's settling for a 1-year deal after all that. It's great for him that he escapes the realm of being considered a league minimum player. He talked about that in his press conference as well, but it is surprising to me that he didn't have any interest in testing free agency, according to him. And that's because the Bengals offer got close enough that it was something that he was comfortable taking. But according to him during his press conference, didn't want to push this thing to free agency to see what he could get elsewhere, just wanted to get it done, pressured his agent to get it done and return to Cincinnati. If you want to feel real good about the Bengals as an organization, go listen to Dalton Risner wax poetic about the Bengals in his press conference after you're done listening to us talk about this. I don't know if you're a bigger fan listening to this episode than Dalton Risner is of the Cincinnati Bengals right now. So surprising that it was that strong of a feeling for him that it lands on a 1-year deal, because a 2-year deal I think does benefit him and the team. And instead of a 1-year option, that's great to get him back and get that continuity going and keep that fit rolling, where he's a great fit with what the Bengals are doing on offense. And we'll get into what that means for them on the field. But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest surprises here, in addition to the timing, is that 1-year element.
Yeah, the 1-year element, far more surprised than a Monday morning situation. Because you're right, it's like, it's twofold. On one hand, those that are prioritizing happiness and have that understanding and have bounced around a little bit, I get why you'd be like, yeah, but he's still making millions. And I think some will say it and view it that way. On the other hand, The Athletic projected him at 2 for 14. 5 million, 14 million. 7 million per year versus 5 million per year. Like, there's a real reason. I saw Drew Rosenhaus at the combine last week. Didn't talk to him. Saw him. He was like 8 feet from me. And like, I should have asked him about Dalton then. Didn't. He hadn't met with the Bengals yet. I know that. At that point, he hadn't. Obviously, things went well at the combine when they did meet. But it's just really surprising to see him say, all right, this is good enough. This is good enough. This is close enough. And it's good to have him back. Ultimately, that's it. I do want to highlight one thing, though, that maybe plays a role in Dalton in his decision to come back, but to me would have played a huge role in if I'm the Bengals making sure I kept Dalton. And it isn't necessarily the on the field stuff. So I want to highlight that. We'll do that coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by TurboTax. TurboTax is here for you. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment, that's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. With Intuit TurboTax, they now have in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of working and walking in a meeting and talking to a real person, walking out, knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local. That's TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today.
Just want to shout out real quick before you get into your key reason that you want to talk about here with Dalton Risner's return. Free agency is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals got this done ahead of free agency. That's awesome.
But
we will be here for you so hard through free agency. You have no idea if you haven't been with this show in the past. But not only that, we right now have an awesome promotion for the Everydayer Club, which if you're an everydayer, you've heard us talk about in the past. You use promo code free agency at lockedonbengals.supercast.com. You'll get a free month of the Everydayer Club. That means you get access to a ad-free version of the show and the Locked On Bengals Discord channel. Locked On has a new Discord server if you want to chat with some of the other everydayers out there. Again, that's lockedonbengals.supercast.com, promo code free agency with no spaces to check it out for a free month.
Yeah, and Jake, one, you should check it out. Hope to see you there. Two, you would get little nuggets like this, and I think it's a big one. I talked to Dalton after he got benched for Jalen Rivers, and it was clear that Jalen Rivers was going to start. And so you're Dalton, and you're this former second-round pick that's bounced around, that waited till late August to signed here because Joe Burrow's here. Let's be honest. A lot of these free agents probably did that. Dalton being one, Noah Fant certainly being one. And now suddenly he's hurt. Dalton talked about that and his role on that play. But you get here, I think it was 10 days before the regular season starts. Don't really practice that much. It's not like you're really going at it. Then you get thrust into action against Cleveland in the opener. You struggle a bit against Jacksonville, and you're part of the Burrow injury. In midway through the Broncos game, it's going awful. Minnesota, it's going awful. And then you don't start against your former team in the Broncos the following week. And he took that. He took it better than I would have. I would have been pissed. I'd have been like, look, I have skins on the wall. I'm freaking good at my job. You threw me out there because I wasn't ready to go because we didn't get a deal done. And I there would have been it would have been easy to point the finger. Not that he would have said it to me, but I think I would have struggled with not pointing the finger, and he didn't. And I know he didn't because it's not just the conversations I had with him. I had conversations with other people in the building, and Dalton Risner kept a level head and kept working, and he got his chance, and he didn't become this guy that I think the NFL thought he was, and that's why he's been hanging out there with those league minimum type deals, because he's been someone we've talked about on the pod for years, and Bengals fans have talked about for years, and anyone that's been looking for guard help should be talking about for the past couple of years. And so they finally got him, and he didn't play well, and people acted like he couldn't play. And it was just, well, he hadn't practiced much. And for him to keep the right attitude and then get to this point, like if you had talked to him or talked with anyone about him, let's say on October 1st last year, right before Joe Flacco makes his first start against Green Bay, there would have been a lot of people that are like, yeah, Dalton Risner stinks. He got benched for a 5th-round rookie in Jalen Rivers. There's no, and now you think about it, and it's like all the things we're about to talk about football-wise, all the reasons why it's exciting, all the reasons why it's a perfect fit. And I do think the attitude element of it, him handling that, there are a lot of guys that wouldn't have handled that well. And he did. I think about it. Mike Pennell signed. He's got skins on the wall. He signed, and he was about to get his snaps cut a little bit. And so he got the hell out of town, and he found his way out of town. And he went to the Chiefs and went nowhere, but he still did that, right? Like veterans find their way. And so for Dalton to hold his own and do it that way I think it just deserves to be brought up and highlighted, because it's kind of wild, because his career could have been slipping away, Jake. And instead he made that and turned that into now a hopefully $5 million deal. Hopefully he gets every penny that he can get out of this contract.
And he talked about that when he was talking about his workouts, where he was spending his offseason in Florida, waking up every day and doing the same workouts that he's doing every day and staying in shape, and really asking himself, like, man, why am I doing this? He's talking about a neighbor who walked by him when he was in that patch of grass. And the neighbor's like, man, you must be in a real serious fantasy football league, huh? And Dalton Risner sitting there, NFL player. This guy has no idea who he is, right? Seeing him doing pass sets or whatever he's doing in the grass, doing a workout in the grass. The guy's like, man, serious fantasy football league, huh? And Dalton Risner sits there and he just has an existential crisis about it. Like, man, is that really where I'm at now? Like, is a team going to value me again? Am I going to get a shot? And I think that's why he felt so valued. Part of why he felt so valued with the Bengals, right? He got that other shot. He talked about Dan Pitcher shouting him out in a team meeting for being the first guy running down the field to pick somebody up. He's like, man, I've been doing that my whole career. No one's ever recognized that. And he's talking about how being in Cincinnati, he felt so seen and valued. And that's part of why he wanted to be back. And it's not just the organization and Joe Burrow and Ted Karras and Orlando Brown and the guys that welcomed him in, and Joe Burrow, I might have said that one already, who welcomed him in. And the coaches recognizing him, and the fit with Scott Peters, right?
Yep.
It's also the fans and shouting out the fans. He said he's not on social media, but obviously his wife is. She broke the news, I think we mentioned, and she's very much on social media. She tells him everything. And it, you know, the whole house in Kansas City came up that they bought because that's where his wife's family is. And the fan support also meant a lot to him. So shout out to everyone who was so supportive of him, but the support from his teammates and the fans and the support he got from his coaches really stood out to him. And I think is part of why, again, go listen to that press conference. The guy really, really wanted to be back in Cincinnati, which is why, as we looked at the projections, we've talked about various contract projections, right? We talked about what PFF had projected for Trey Hendrickson, the 1 year, $21 million or whatever it was, versus the Athletics projection. PFF actually nailed this with Dalton Risner. They had it at 1 year, $4.5 million. And that could be roughly what it turns out to be. So we'll see what goes on with some of the rest of these, but a lot going on there behind the scenes, I think, that made Dalton Risner want to return to Cincinnati. The relationships that he's formed in that building, the acceptance that he felt from the fans and from the team. I think a pretty big deal to a guy that had bounced around a little bit and hadn't found a home after that rookie deal. And it's another one of those reminders that you get about the human element of this stuff. And for all of the criticism that we heap on this front office, and we do, and on this team, and we do, and they deserve it for their poor communication with guys like Trey Hendrickson, or for them being too late to the party to get things done for extensions, or the way they handled Jesse Bates and the extensions for the wide receivers are what I'm talking about. They did do this the right way this year. Took them too long last year. This year, they got out ahead of this thing. They got this done early. And so when they do things right, we give them credit for it. When they do things wrong, we rip them. And this one they got right.
They did. They got it right. And they played it right. And they got it done. And they deserve credit for it. And it's a huge addition. It's a huge addition because it's one less weakness to worry about. You bring back the starting offensive line. Now you're looking at it. And Jalen Rivers, I wasn't trying to poo-poo Jalen Rivers. I actually like him at guard. And who knows? Maybe Lucas Patrick comes back in the fold.
That'll be an interesting one. Lucas Patrick for depth.
Yeah, like that's really interesting. And now what are we talking about? Swing tackle.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It just feels, it's like last year it was left guard, right guard. Well, what do you think about Ted Karras long term? What do you think about swing tackle? Like it was just, there were so many things offensive line wise, which means hopefully they can focus on adding, since they added to the offensive trenches. I'm trench man. Added the defensive trenches. By the way, you mentioned the Dalton Risner press conference. I tweeted it out, but it's on the Cincinnati Bengals Talk YouTube channel if anyone missed it. But we need to dive into the football part of it a little bit. The football. Why should we care about Dalton? Up to $5 million guard. It's actually a big deal. The Bengals offensive line. We made fun of the idea that this could be the best line of Joe Burrow's career last year because it just feels like every year we talk about it. This should be the best offensive line.
We're doing it again.
It should be. It should be because they're back, Jake.
Yeah.
We'll dive into the football side of it coming up next.
This episode of Locked On Bengals is sponsored by Indeed. When there's workplace chaos going on, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, one position you have to fill still sitting open. The Bengals dealing with this on the defensive side of the ball. The pressure's on. The Bengals need to make the right hire, and so do you. Well, that's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs, at least for you. Indeed sponsored jobs will help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, from skills, experience to location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your job posting. And the minute we've been talking about Indeed, companies will have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to their data worldwide. So when you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing the candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of Locked On Bengals will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get the job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Again, that's Indeed.com/podcast. You can visit right now and support Locked On Bengals by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, that's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs.
Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and college basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. The red hot Redhawks trying to finish 31-0. By the way, Jake, if they finish undefeated, they better get into the tournament. I don't care about the stupid conference tournament. Doesn't matter. If you finish a regular season undefeated, you should be in. But from early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always something in college hoops. And right now, FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your vision. And you can get that profit boost. Take advantage of it, from mixing spreads, totals, player props, and so much more. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season, the Red Hot Redhawks. Head to FanDuel.com today to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game.
All right, James, let's talk about some football. Talked a lot about the deal itself, Dalton Risner's effusive praise for the Cincinnati Bengals. Dalton Risner is a guy we've been talking about on the show for years because he's always seemed like a great fit for the way the Bengals want to play offense. And he had his best year as a pro, especially as a run blocker in Cincinnati. And in the last half of the year, when he returned to the starting lineup in week 11 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, as Joe Burrow was ramping back up and getting ready to return from week 11 to the end of the regular season, he was PFF's 15th highest graded guard, period, in the NFL. And he was PFF's 12th best run blocking guard in that period of time. Dalton Risner, a guy who we've been talking about for years on this show because he was the 10th best pass blocking guard in that time because he's been a good pass blocker in his career. And somehow Scott Peters, as things were clicking for this offensive line, and I couldn't find the exact stat, but it was something like they were top 6 or so in the second half of the season in pass block win rate or a pass blocking metric that I cannot remember the specifics of. They were top 10, and I think it was much higher than that in a run blocking metric over that period of time. And part of that was Dalton Risner's reinsertion in the starting lineup. You started to see Amarius Mims play better when it was Dalton Risner beside him instead of Jalen Rivers beside him. The communication between those two guys, especially over those last 8-9 weeks of the season, was really, really good. 8 weeks of the season was really good. The entire offensive line played better down the stretch as Scott Peters' teaching took hold and they got comfortable with the way they were doing things. They started making adjustments in the run game, but Risner specifically kind of led the way in that period of time, was one of their better performers. He and Amarius Mims on that right side of the line of scrimmage for this Bengals offense really clicked, and running those guys back, not having questions about who's going to win a job and desperate needs to just find a guy in the draft or in free agency, signing guys late in the summer before the regular season starts, as they did with Dalton Risner. We're going to talk about depth between now and then, right? But from a starting offensive line perspective, first time the Bengals have run it back in the Joe Burrow era. And with the way they finished last season, that's got to be encouraging for Bengals fans that want to see more success from this offense.
That's it. That's exactly it. Is you have the continuity. The young guys, I think, really took to Scott Peters from a technique standpoint and started the gel. You think about Dylan Fairchild. You think about his development, Amarius Mims and his development. That's what I mean by that, is you can see it. And the veterans, Ted Karras, one of the best values in the league at center, it feels like. Orlando Brown Jr., I know a lot of people pointed out, whatever, pretty good value. Do you see what the Browns had to do at right tackle and swing a trade and $21 million per year? Like, I feel pretty good about Orlando Brown Jr. right now. And so to get Dalton as well under contract, it's just one less thing. And here's the other thing, Jake. It wasn't like there were a lot of right guards out there that were screaming, "Hey, sign me." This isn't like safety. Like we've talked about free agent safety some. I feel like there's, you don't get this guy. Well, you could go after that guy, or you could go after that guy. Or, well, maybe you draft two. I'm just saying you could talk yourself into a bunch of different things. I'm sick of talking myself into this offensive line. I don't want to do that. I want to go the other way, where it's like, oh, well, they do have a nice versatile piece in Jalen Rivers who doesn't have to start, that can continue to develop and hopefully get better and better. But they have a guy in Fairchild who you hope takes a second-year leap, Amarius Mims, who's playing for a monster contract. That man is playing for a monster deal. And then proven vets. I like that. And I think that Risner, he was hoping to find a home when he signed here in September or late August. It was a rocky first few months, and then he found a home. And I hope that this is just the start, because it's not like he's close. You could see in that press conference, he's got plenty of energy. This dude doesn't feel or sound like he's about to call it quits. He wants to play for a long time. So I honestly hope that this is just the beginning.
Yeah, what did he say about how he's celebrating, James? How's he celebrating this one?
How is he celebrating this one?
Well, didn't he say they're going to celebrate by going and winning the Super Bowl?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Trying to set you up there to,
He was like, well, how you going to, we're going to go win the Super Bowl, bro. Yeah. So that's, I was like, how is he celebrating? Because I think he tweeted they celebrated with a big, a fat cheese coney. So
yeah,
that's
what he had a coney. That's right.
Yeah, which I could go for about 7 right now. So if you want to send them to me, but that, it's cool to see, and a theme that the everydayers will know from a few years ago. It started a few years ago, and it's really every camp, certainly every March. Sick and tired of talking about the offensive line. Well, the past few years, the Bengals got it right at left guard with Dylan Fairchild, got it right at right tackle with Amarius Mims. I think they've gotten it right by keeping Ted around. We'll see what they do with Orlando, but I think they've gotten it right by signing Orlando. I don't think anybody really debates that.
Well,
and so
that debate exists, I think.
Well, they're idiots because Jonah Williams was the other option, right? So
I'm just saying the debate exists. That's
well, regardless. And then you have a guy in Dalton Risner who came in, fits really well, had the attitude that fits, and then you mentioned all the metrics, all of the data that backs up the eye test. I mean, really, when Joe Flacco, it felt like when Joe Flacco got to town on, and I know Dalton didn't play the whole entire time there, but it was like, this makes sense. And then it got even better when Dalton took that right guard job over, got even better. And Joe Burrow took note of that as well.
Yeah, it was definitely at a point last season when I was kind of confused about why they continued to roll Jalen Rivers out there, but it was valuable development for him, valuable live reps for him as well. And Dalton Risner got back out there and showed that he belongs and can be a starter in this league, and a high-level starter at that. And that's what the Bengals will be looking to build on in 2026. Continue to build on the running game, continue to build on the success they had down the stretch. And Dan Pitcher talked about this too. Paul Dehner Jr. with a great job of cutting this quote out from Pitcher, but Pitcher said they cut sacks by 25%, 10th in the league in sack rate, 4th in pressure rate in the back 2/3 of the season, which is what we're talking about here with Dalton Risner's reinsertion into the lineup in week 11. Those numbers got even better. And the growth, of course, from Amarius Mims and Dylan Fairchild and all the coaches and Duke Tobin, I think, acknowledging the job that Dalton Risner did for them, the fit that existed, and this has been described as a layup. So, don't want to go, I guess, maybe too overboard here with praise. This is something that Dalton Risner really wanted to get done, but they got it done on time without drama. And the way the last couple of off seasons have gone, that is a higher bar than they've set for themselves with retaining their own guys the last couple of years.
Well, if you're going to win games in March, you got to make your layups. And that ties to the FanDuel read, right? If
there you go.
You're going to have to make your layups. You're going to have to make the easy ones. And this one was one of those that should have gotten done, and it did. And that's a good thing.
That's a great thing for Joe Burrow, the Bengals, the future of this offense. We're going to talk about depth. Like I said, that we're not going to talk as much about the offensive line. We might talk about a left tackle of the future in some mock draft scenarios. Monroe Freeling. I'm not sure how his last name is pronounced. A Georgia tackle who perhaps has tested his way into the top 10 of this draft, has been in some top 10 mocks that I've seen since the combine. That might be something we talk about. We're going to talk about depth as well. But outside of that, you're right. It's not going to be so much of wringing hands over the offensive line this offseason. That's great for us. We're going to be wringing our
Dylan
hands about
Thieneman. Let's talk
other
about him.
things. Yeah. Talk about this defense. Talk about safeties. That'll be happening.
Running
the
back,
next
y'all.
couple of
Check out
weeks.
our mock draft. If you missed it, check out our mock draft. They dropped during the Dalton Risner news
Yeah.
as it was breaking.
Perfect timing.
It's one that I think you're going to love.
Perfect timing. There's a lot of hype about that scenario being impossible now. Jeremiah Love being tied. Spoilers. Jeremiah Love being tied to Arizona very strongly in the last couple of days. I
Oh,
believe.
God. Don't do it, Arizona. Don't ruin his career. Get the hell out of here. Don't do that. Arizona. What?
Well,
What is wrong with it? Arizona needs to be sent to the CFL for this year.
I think it was
Arizona.
We'll wrap up there for
I
this
would
episode
say.
of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Until next time, thanks for listening. Hoo day, and have a good one.